This is my first vintage watch purchase, and if I'm honest, I didn't even know these existed until recently. It all started when I kept seeing the Cartier tank pop up, and eventually I grew an interest in that rectangular watch shape. Something about it just seemed so timeless and classic, which made me start to look into older timepieces of a similar construction. Needless to say, it was the start of another watch hunt and a trip down a huge rabbit hole. I was looking for something affordable, something different, and something that resonated with me. So I started with trusty Seiko and Citizen, and through my digging, I came across some absolute gems like the Seiko Dolce collection, Seiko Galaxy line, and Citizen Exceeds, but there was a brand in particular that really stood out to me. One that was notorious for not only being hard to find outside of Japan, but one that also isn't as well known, yet carries a lot of prestige. Credor. Now, when you hear Credor, your first thought might be extremely expensive and often unattainable watches. However, take a look at their older offerings and suddenly a whole world of opportunities opens up. Their older timepieces are a lot more affordable than you might think, with some being as low as 150 Australian dollars, cheaper than some Seikos and Citizens of a similar spec if you know where to look, which I'll show shortly. One downside though was they weren't as abundant, and it can be quite difficult to find a specific model you're after, as many of them were from sellers in Japan unwilling to sell internationally, or you would find them with insane premiums on eBay. So where did I find these bargains? Buyee. Now, I've used Buyee in the past to purchase a limited edition Orient, which of course was only available in Japan, and this time around they came in clutch for my Credor hunt. If you're unfamiliar, Buyee is a proxy service that allows you to buy anything from Japan from websites like Mercari and Rakuten to name a few, and you can find all of these on the Buyee website itself, so you won't need to switch sites in the process. I mainly searched on Mercari as it's a marketplace platform where most vintage watches are more commonly found, and this also meant a lot cheaper prices than most other places. Simply type in what you're after, in my case Credor, and you'll see a whole bunch of listings that you would miss from a web search. I even saw some exact listings here that were priced almost 2 times more on other platforms, so it's definitely worth using. Once I found what I wanted, I just added it to my cart and checked out by following the prompts. This process is a lot smoother if you register beforehand, as Buyee will use your details to check out, and luckily for us, I managed to get us a 10% off coupon if you register using the link in the description. Do keep in mind, there will be a shipping fee added later on once your product is in Buyee's possession ready to be shipped to you. But even then, the prices you find on Buyee were so good, the total cost with shipping was still far cheaper than purchasing elsewhere. Not only that, Buyee essentially bypasses the need for a Japanese address and phone number, which is often a requirement to purchase directly from other platforms. When I saw this Credor listed, it just made sense to me. Many older timepieces often come as watch only, and this one was a rare sight with inclusions of the box, manual, and paperwork. It was also a classic size, appropriate for an older timepiece, sharing very similar dimensions to the Cartier Tank Small, and had that tank look I was after with its own unique touches. The dial has a warm cream color to it that exudes olden charm and bears a vertical rib-like pattern with intricate horizontal striping along them that creates a rounded 3D-like effect that's just so mesmerizing to look at. It's also subtle enough to almost fade away at a distance, so it maintains a rather understated appearance, which is what I was after. Its hour markers have a combination of applied and printed elements with golden faceted 3, 6, and 9 stick indices and thin black printed indices in between. At 12 o'clock is the Credor logo in the same golden finish as its other markers, and it's fitting of the origins of the name. The hands are also done in the same golden fashion with a sleek sword-like structure, and we also find a capped seconds hand, which helps to elevate the dial as a whole for a very clean look that focuses on the small details. Adding to that, the edge of the crystal has a golden border that ties everything together and really emphasizes the champagne hue of the dial in a unique way. I'm typically not a fan of gold, but the way it's executed here feels like the addition is purposeful instead of ostentatious, and I think it works fantastically. The composition of the overall watch is such a splendid sight and shows just how timeless a watch can be. The crystal is slightly raised with a beveled edge, allowing it to flow incredibly well into the beveled bezel and case, and the three parts form this three-step layout that takes full advantage of that rectangular architecture to bring out the edges of each section. The shape itself also works with the vertical texture on the dial, and together they highlight the many lines and facets of the watch. If we take a closer look, the corners of the bezel meet at an almost crescent-like point, giving them a soft look that transitions nicely into the rounded tips of the lugs. It's a small detail, but it's details like this that make the watch exciting for me and showcase the craftsmanship of Credor, even at this price point. There is brushing on the sides of the case, however, the rest of it is polished, and this helps to accentuate the construction of the case itself, and in turn plays well with the octagonal shape of the crown, which is beautifully signed with a crisp relief of the Credor logo. Now, the watch did come with its original leather strap, but I've swapped it out for a plain black leather strap for a simple and clean look. I think this strap pairs wonderfully with the watch head and doesn't take away from it, allowing it to take center stage. Given how small the watch is, it sits great on my wrist, and the size itself was one of the main draws for me. I've tried on the Cartier Tank Small and Large in the past, and they both worked, but I think the small just felt more at home. Since the dimensions of this Credor are almost the same as that Cartier Tank Small, I didn't really need to try it on, and it really gives off that classic look. Although it is small and the hour markers are rather thin, it's a lot more legible than I thought. It's very light and comfortable, and given how thin it is, it will slide under the cuff with ease, which is perfect, as I think it would look best with a suit and tie. As you can tell by the tick of the seconds hand, this is a quartz watch and is a big contributor to its affordability, but that doesn't mean it isn't a quality movement. It's powered by the 4J81 caliber, a high accuracy quartz movement that is specified to plus or minus 10 seconds a year, the same as Grand Seiko's 9F quartz, and quite impressive for its age. I've had this watch for a few weeks now and it hasn't lost any time at all, but only time will tell how it will track over the year. This watch has definitely opened up a gateway into the vintage watch world for me, and it's honestly quite exciting. Almost like discovering watches again for the first time. There's just something so charismatic about older timepieces, and as I dive deeper and deeper into this category, my appreciation for them continues to grow. If you're willing to share, I'm always interested in hearing about any hidden gems you might know of, or if you've scored a great vintage piece in the past. Also, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this Credor. Do you think it's too small, or do you think it works? Thank you for checking out the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more watch content. I'll see you in the next one.